tithing is biblical and fundamental. Some things are biblical, but they are not fundamental. Polygamy is biblical. David had more than one wife, but it's not a fundamental teaching of the Bible. But for a teaching to traverse the whole Bible, started with Abraham, continued with Jacob, emphasized by Moses. All the prophets talked about it. Jesus said we should in Matthew 23:23. If you want to understand Matthew 23:23 better, read the Amplified. Jesus said, don't leave righteousness because of tithing, but also don't leave tithing because of righteousness. You must do both. But the one that beats the biscuit about tithing in the New Testament is Hebrews chapter 6, verse 20 to chapter 7, verse 21. 4 times it says that Jesus is a high priest after the order of Melchizedek. Melchizedek is the man who received tithe from Abraham. If Jesus is a high priest after the order of Melchizedek, what is an order? The Nigerian army is after the order of the British. So all our generals were trained by the British. They think like British army. They operate like British army. They salute like British army. Their ranks are like British army, because the Nigerian army is after the order of the British army. So if Jesus is a high priest after the order of Melchizedek, he must do what Melchizedek did. Melchizedek received tithe. So in the New Testament, if we don't, we're actually out of the order. We're out of order. So all those guys who are teaching all those, most times is the guys, they don't even know scriptures. They've never done theology. They have no depth, but they are taking advantage of the fact that also there are pastors who cannot exegete what they are practicing. They can't exegete it. They can't teach it in depth. So what I just told you now, in the space of 30 minutes of writing, Paul wrote Hebrews. So from Hebrews 6:20 to 7:21, in 30 minutes, he kept saying, Jesus is the high priest after the order of Melchizedek. Jesus is the high priest after the order of Melchizedek. He's trying to make a point. Even 30 minutes of writing, you are emphasizing one truth. There is something you are driving. Go check it. You see it. And so like I told you, the Nigerian army is after the order of the British army, which means it replicates. It must do similar. It must do exact. It must train like them. Babangida went to Sandos. Buhari went to Sandos. Obasanjo went to Sandos. The late Malari went to Sandos. The late Agui Ironsi went to Sandos. Yakubu Gowon went to Sandhurst. I was raised in the military barracks. That's why I use that kind of analogy. I can still remember the white soldiers on our barracks. I can still see the day they actually handed over to our people and said, we've trained you, now copy what we do. So if Jesus had 2 priests to follow, Aaron, Melchizedek, he chose Melchizedek because the priesthood of Aaron ended. So the Christianity is not just about the money, it's about principles. Also the tithe is the principle of the first thing. First thing. Every first thing belongs to God. Every first thing, my firstborn must be dedicated to God. If I don't dedicate my firstborn, my other children will struggle. So this thing about that, some people who they know that I can turn it to a soft point. I can become a popular DJ. Everybody can go to my website, and they don't know they are destroying themselves, because they will make some people 10 times sons of hell by thinking, oh, maybe the guy has a point, not knowing the guy, he couldn't give the monkeys what the consequence is of what he's teaching. So you've got to understand the tithe. For you to stop tithing, God will have to stop recognizing the law of the first thing. When the children of Israel crossed out of the wilderness at the end of 40 years, he's already told them, every first thing is mine. So the first city they got to, which one? Do you know the Bible? The first city, I wish some of you will know that they came to, that somebody touched something in there. Jericho. God said, the first city is mine. Don't touch what's inside. And somebody went and touched. And the Bible calls what he did accursed. Do you want to know the Hebrew word for accursed? The Hebrew and Arabic are sister languages. The Hebrew word for accursed is harem. What do Muslims call evil? Haram. So when you touch what belongs to God, all those, I felt really I felt tempted to mention their name, but I wouldn't. They are asking Christians to commit a harem, to touch their cursed. You don't have to give your tithe, but you will face the consequence. You are committing a harem. So this phone is like the tithe. In the hand of God, it's a blessing. In the wrong hand, it's a harem. Blessing, harem.